Have you ever had a desire to write a book, maybe a novel or a memoir, but you just don't know how to get started? Then this video is for you. Trust me, just keep watching. I always told my wife that I would write a book if I had the right subject. And when our son was diagnosed with autism at age 3, my wife suggested I start a blog and write about what I was learning about our son, about myself as a dad, and about our father-son relationship. And so I found my subject right in front of me, my son. I think everyone has a subject that's right in front of them or right inside of them that they can write about. I've read interviews with many writers, and they often say they chose the subjects that they write about because it's something they're working out in their own life. So it's really that simple. Find a subject that's personal to you, something you're working out maybe in your own life that you will hopefully be dealing with for a while, something with no quick fix or easy answers, and then just start writing and see where it goes. So looking back on my own writing journey, especially over the last 9 years, I want to share with you 5 tips on how to get started writing a book. Tip number 1, find a subject that is personal and meaningful to you. Atticus Lish asked himself this question after he finished his first novel, Preparation for the Next Life. His question was, what hurts? His mom had died when he was still a teenager from Lou Gehrig's disease. That's where you gradually lose the ability to use all your limbs. And even though 20 years had passed, it was still something that he was working through in his life because he didn't feel like he was there for his mom in the last part of her life. So that became the subject for his next book, The War for Gloria. So as you think about writing a book, the most important part is to think about picking a subject that's close to the bone. Close to the bone means something that's personal to you, maybe something that you're working out or have gone through in the past. And this is important because if you're writing a book, you're going to be sticking with this subject for quite a while. I started my blog 9 years ago, and now I'm converting my blog posts into scenes for a memoir related to my main storyline, my relationship with my son. I also have a subplot, the contrasting parenting styles between my wife and myself. Of course, autism is the subject. And the great thing about starting a blog is it helps you to get started, to learn how to start and finish a piece of writing that one day maybe can become part of a book. Or it could be something you've already gone through and learned something about that you can share with other people. Tip number 2, consider starting your own blog as a platform for your writing. I started writing my blog 9 years ago, just writing about places my son and I would go and what I was learning about him and autism and being a dad along the way. And now I'm converting those same blog posts into scenes for my memoir. I have a main storyline, my relationship with my son, and I have a subplot, the contrasting parenting attitudes between my wife and myself. And of course, autism is also a subject. And so the great thing for me about starting a blog is it helped me to get started writing and telling my story. One thing I've learned about writing a blog is to not really care what other people think. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but I remember when I started my blog, I was too focused on how many comments I got on a post or how many visitors I had to my blog. And now I've done a complete reversal in my attitude. Now I post what I write, and I even go back and revise it. I'm not worried if it's perfect. I just like to get it out there, and I hope it'll be a blessing to the people who read it. Tip number 3, get in the habit of writing every day. One of the most important things I've learned about writing is you just have to get started. Once you get started and you start writing, writing leads to more writing. It's kind of like those volcanoes that kids make where you pour in vinegar and you pour in baking soda. All of a sudden, once you start writing, you'll get an explosion of even more writing. So the most important thing is to just get started writing. Sure, you're going to have some good days, some bad days, some fits, some starts. But unless you get started writing, you'll never see where your writing can go. And I know what you're thinking. You come home tired from work and you don't have any energy or time to write. But I encourage you, just find 15 minutes, 30 minutes to write. And from there, you'll see that your writing will just continue to grow. One way I know I am meant to be a writer is, for me, an hour or 2 hours of writing always feels like 5 or 10 minutes. So I encourage you to try to find a writing time and a place that works for you. I like to write early in the morning, 6:30, 7, but I also like to write in the car or edit my writing in the park or to write in bed. My wife says I'm obsessed, and maybe she's right. But just try to find out what works best for you and then write wherever and however and whenever that works best for you, and try to enjoy it. Tip number 4, run down the page naked, metaphorically, of course. One thing that often stops a lot of people from writing or continuing to write is what I like to call the tyranny of perfectionism. Actually, another writer said that, and so I should probably give her credit. It was Anne Lamott. And while I'm confessing, another writer said the key to writing a first draft is to run down the page naked. That was Mary Carr in her book, The Art of Memoir. So what exactly does it mean to run down a page naked? It means not to be self-conscious or worried about how your writing will turn out. You just need to let it all out in a first draft, to just have a spontaneous romp down the page, and to remember that you can always revise your writing in a second and third and fourth draft. So you just want to concentrate on getting a flow in your writing. One thing I've learned about myself as a writer is I actually enjoy revising my writing and making my writing get better and better with each draft. Another thing I've learned about revising is revising actually takes the pressure off your first draft. Because if you think about it, you know you'll be coming back to revise your draft, and so you just need to get something down in your first draft to be able to have something to revise. Tip number 5, find an apprentice. I'm not talking about a person that you meet with regularly to talk about writing, a mentor. That would be really nice, but those people are hard to find in real life. Instead, what I like to do is to find books on writing by authors, and it makes me feel like I'm sitting down for a cup of coffee and talking about writing with that author. You can check the description below to see some good books on writing that I like. Another thing I like to do is just take any book that I'm reading and really study the craft of writing. By this I mean you can just look at what a writer does to make their writing work. You can look at how they create a scene, how they build up to a climax, and you can apply what you learn to your own writing. Another good tip is to find a book like the one you want to write and then study that book. Look at the overall story structure, look at how the writer writes scenes. You can do this with any book. Just look at what a writer does on a page to make their writing work. And you can do this with your own writing. And the more you study good writing, it will help you improve in your writing. So there you have it, 5 tips on how to get started writing a book. But again, I highly recommend don't start thinking too much about writing a book, but just learn to get in the habit of writing every day. And the key is to just start getting writing, finding your subject and getting in the habit of writing every single day. I'm now on chapter 6 of the memoir I'm writing. I have 35 to 40 scenes that I've revised, and I'm working on blending them to create a coherent storyline. And the point I'm trying to make to you is none of this would happen if I didn't start somewhere and just start writing. I hope you found this video helpful to get started writing, and don't forget to click subscribe so you can be notified when I make new videos that will help you grow as a writer.